Michael Mirolla is the author of over a dozen works of fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and plays, and a three-time winner of a FG Bressani Literary Prize. His novel Berlin was a finalist for the Indie and National Book Awards. Born in Italy and raised in Montreal, Michael is also the publisher and editor-in-chief of Guernica Editions, based in Toronto. Michela Mitrani writes and self-publishes science fiction in Italian and has recently published his first fantasy in English, Lord of Time. You have some copies there, in case you were interested. He is the author, he is the founder of a leading book marketing and self-publishing platform in Italy called credinellaTuaStoria.com, which means believe in your story.com, and the host of Credi Crea, Believe and Create, a weekly podcast in Italian that interviews successful authors. So, welcome to Michael and Michael, Michele and Michele, to the podium for our Q&A. I will be hosting the Q&A and we'll ask some basic questions, and then I will open to the floor. I will open the floor to other questions, so to your questions. So let's hope that this event is lively and very interactive. So you are also welcome to step in if you just, in the flow of conversation, if you want to step in, you are welcome to just raise your hand. So the first question that I have is for Michael. Both of them are called Michael, so for Michael Mirolla.
I was born Michele.
And so Michael, it's easier to be a writer or a publisher? And why? So here is your mind.
I'm not very good at impromptu stuff, so I wrote it down. I don't believe it's not necessarily a matter of easier or harder, really. At least that's not the first thing that comes to mind.
Is the mic on?
Is it on?
Yeah, that's
Hello? Yeah. Yep, sorry. Just that the two, although connected along a continuum, in other words, what writer does want to get published, have different approaches and priorities. Think about it. And they require different attitudes in order to be successful. So writing is a solitary endeavor. You need peace and quiet. You need a place to work. You can't be disturbed. You need time to allow your imagination to percolate, just like some coffee. And you need ideas to flow. So writing requires an intense concentration and the putting into practice of a whole bunch of different skills. The most important being the ability to manipulate the language in a way that results in creation. Publishing is different. Publishing is a combination of private and public spheres. It also requires a whole range of skills, from the ability to evaluate manuscripts, for example, to editing, juggling production, in other words, cover design and typesetting stuff, to administrative work. So the private side is the evaluation and the editing. The public side is the launching of books, the meeting with authors, and other shareholders. Arts agencies, distributors, booksellers, these are all people that a publisher has to communicate with, so which is easier? If I were forced to choose, I would say publishing is easier. Why? Because writing can be very frustrating. Writing can be depressing. It can affect one's essence, one's being. At least to me. So in some ways, my identity is connected directly to my writing. Without the writing, I'm not sure who I would be. So it's important to, as a writer, to push yourself to the extreme in your writing, and that can be a dangerous thing. In terms of your physical, mental health, and, in terms of your relationship with other people, with family and friends in particular. So while publishing might appear more difficult on the surface, in terms of the pressure to get results, to survive as a business, to make decisions that prove both artistically and economically, writing can be both more satisfying and more damaging to you. So, hope I don't stay too long.
No, it's perfect, perfect. So the next question then is for Michela Vitrani. Self-publishing, is it a choice or a necessity?
The choice, if you like coffee a lot, and you're willing to drink a lot of it. When I decided to self-publish, mine was a choice because I wanted 100% freedom. But there was a famous movie called Spider-Man. There is a sentence that I like a lot. And it says, from great power comes great responsibilities. 100% true. I wish I knew that before when I started the journey. I started self-publishing in Italian around six years ago, and I started my adventure again in English. I would say 3 months ago when my first fantasy book in English was published. There is not one day that I don't learn something new. And that's again something that came from that basic choice I want for freedom. I wish I had known something before that now I know. But I completely agree with what Michael says. If you want to be a writer, it's difficult. If you want to be a publisher, it's difficult. If you want to be a writer and a publisher, you better have a plan and all the coffee attached to it. So the self-publishing was a choice, was my choice. And it came attached with a lot of things. Responsibilities and a lot of will to learn every single day. Because if there is something with self-publishing that you have to learn, is that you will learn every single day something new. So you have to be very adaptable. And you have to be very good in asking help to other people. Because when you get to the self-publishing route, you have to understand that you are not by yourself. If you want to produce something that is competitive, you need a team of people. And in order for you to understand how to get the team of people, even that is a work by itself. You need a cover artist. You need somebody to explain you marketing, how to build your own website, how to edit your book. Why are you doing it? You have to ask yourself, why am I putting myself into all of these troubles? So, in order to finish the answer to this question is that you have to understand your why. If your why is strong enough, you can and you will succeed. And I saw this happening dozens of times in Italy, even there's a smaller market, and I speak every single day with English-speaking people, Canadian, people from UK, from North America. They are living off their words. And they went on the self-publishing way. And every single one of them, every single time, their why was very strong.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions, for your answers. Beautiful answers, both of them. Michael, how do you select your writers, the writers that you decide to publish?
We have first of all, we have a submissions period at Guernica. So that's, there's a specific time of year when writers can send us stuff. And they can send them, we're basically a literary press. At least our Guernica Editions imprint is a literary press. So what we're looking for from writers are fiction, literary fiction, poetry, and literary non-fiction. So that's the type of writers that we get. We get about between 150 and 200 manuscripts during that submissions period. It's a 3-month period, 3 months or 4 months. January 1st to April 30th. Is that 3 months or 4 months? I'm not sure. But anyway, it's 4. Okay. I think we're going to have to shorten it. So yeah, so for our Guernica editions in print, that's what we look for. And so at the end of the submissions period, 3 of us basically get together, and we have readers as well that we send out material, we send out manuscripts to, and the 3 of us then do a triage. Basically, it's like being in a hospital or something. You have to decide. In this case, you have to decide who is the least sick. So we divide them up, and each one selects the top 10 of those, and of those, then we look through the top 10 of each one of us and see which there are matches among them. Those go right to the top, and then we select for fiction. We should be around. It's like about 10. Poetry about 8 to 10. And non-fiction, we have about 6. Our non-fiction is a combination of literary non-fiction, and we have something called the Writers Series, which in effect is we take someone comes to us, usually a professor, saying they would like to do an anthology, a critical anthology on a Canadian author, and so they then get a bunch of people to write material. We've done everybody from Margaret Atwood to Nino Ricci. We're up to number 60, I think now. So that's the Guernica imprint. Then we have something called the Miroland imprint, which is more commercial. Miroland is a very, very ingenious combination of my name and my partner's name. So we have I'm Roland, and she's McFarlane. So we have Miroland. Miroland, we publish just about anything that we like. We published a graphic novel, we published an adult coloring book. We published how to write poetry and save your life, which is our best-selling book. It has about 100 prompts at the end to get the poet to write the material. So that's the Miroland. And then we have a third imprint, which is a completely separate imprint. It's the Guernica World Editions. And that is we publish non-Canadian authors. And to publish non-Canadian authors requires completely different contracts, different agreements, because with Canadian authors, one of the reasons we're able to survive here in Canada, and we're very fortunate, is that Canada has a very good granting system, the arts granting system. We benefit from the Canada Council for the Arts. Where we are, it's the Ontario Arts Council. Here it's the British Columbia Council for the Arts. There's a tax credit involved, and then there's Heritage Canada. Those are all funding agencies, but they only fund Canadian authors, not any non-Canadian. So the Guernica World Editions are completely separate. We like to mix first-time authors with authors that we've published before. So we try to, and our motto is no borders, no limits. And so we like edgy material, but we're open to just about anything as long as it it's not formula, let's put it that way. But our Miroland, we published a mystery, we published speculative fiction, we published a fantasy with Miroland. So we're very wide open with this.
Thank you. So, Michele, which are the pros and cons of self-publishing, and if you can also provide some tips or suggestions for any emerging writers who would like to, to try this route first.
I had the pleasure of answering these questions a few times. There is a blog post that changed my way of writing and publishing books. And this blog post answers Arianna's question very well. It's by Hugh Howey, which is an American science fiction author. He started as independent, and then he became something that was bigger than that. He was able to leverage his, let's say, influence. So he kind of sold his right for the paperback version of his book, but he retained the ebook version because he said, that's how I pay my bills. In this article, which is titled, So You Want to Be a Writer, there are 10 points that basically Hugh says made all the difference for me, and they made the difference to the people I asked to, because he knows a lot of self-published authors than me. One of the things he said was the concept of a person that wants to write a book is the following. I write Facebook posts and I write Twitters every day, so I can write a book. There is a problem here, because you can be a very good writer and you can have studied years, you can have a master of writings. But what Hugh says is you can be crafting the best, beautiful, poetic sentences in the world, and there is no problem with that. The only problem is when you want to write and create a story, there is something called plot, and then there is something called characters. And there are dynamics like, for example, conflict. You can't learn those. The only way you can learn those easily by reading the book. The only way you do it is by practicing a lot. This is one of the points that he says it's one of the most important things and one of the things that people believe can be overseen. So writing for writing. That is true on self-publishing, on hybrid publishing, on every kind of publishing in the world. Another thing that it's used for self-publisher, even more than for publisher, is something called networking. So when you attend an event and you are a self-published author, you have to realize you're not a writer anymore. What you are in that moment is a person that wants to know other people's story. You want to understand what is that makes that person think. What you can learn from the next person. And that became one of my first commandments. When I go to an event, when there is something new to learn, I try to become a sponge. I try to basically get everything as much as I can in that moment, and then when I go home, I re-elaborate. This is something that you have to be as a self-publisher, for me, in order to succeed. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have to be a people person. I am very introverted. I'm looking at you, and I'm fearful. I usually don't speak with so many people at the same time. But there is the part of my brain that is a self-published author that says, this is gold. You want to do this as much as possible because you are training a muscle here. And if you train this muscle, 100% sure, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not a week from now, maybe a year from now, maybe 10 years from now, something you have learned here, you're going to use it somewhere else. Maybe it's going to be a scene in your book. Before, I've never had to speak in front of 50 people. Now I know how to describe the scene. I know the fear that is in my hand in this moment. So I can build a better character. So you want to be a self-published author, you have to put different kind of hats. You have to be able to be a marketer. You have to be able to be a writer. You have to be able to be a good accountant. Because you have to keep track of the expenses and on how much you're making. So that you don't kill yourself or your wife when it comes to the tax season. You have to be able to learn as a self-published author. And I'm sure the other part, the author that is published, nowadays, even them needs that more. They need to do more marketing. They need to be more aware of their surroundings. Long gone are the moment, is the time when a person can publish a book and just be successful like that. You have to put yourself in the line. And this is true for self-publishing, for hybrid publishing, and for legacy or traditional publishing. Some tips.
Yeah.
I've been self-publishing books for about 6 years, mainly in Italian. I have a science fiction series in Italian called Ognologo, which translated to Omnilogos. I just started publishing in English. I am now a bilingual author because I decided that writing in Italian and publishing in Italian is not enough. You have to learn a second language. And you have to learn a second language writing a novel that resonates with people. This is all good in your head 2 years ago, but I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea that I had to read dozens and dozens of books in my genre to understand the basic of how building a plot of a story in English. When you write in a different language, you think differently. So I had the tip that I want to tell you is, if you want to broaden your horizon, you can try different ways and different things, but one thing that I invite you to try, I invite you to do, is explore. Because it doesn't have to be, you have to write in a second language. You maybe are just writing poetry at this moment. Maybe you want to go a bit outside your comfort zone, and you want to try maybe writing science fiction. Maybe you write a short story science fiction. See how it goes. The worst thing that can happen at the end is that now you kind of know how to write a short science fiction story. It's two things now that you can do, poetry and science fiction story. What's the next thing?
Thank you. So you answered 2 questions in one because I asked 2 questions. So there is now one question for Michael, which is query letters. So any tips, and so the do's and don'ts for people who write query letters to publishers?
Good luck. I should have brought my, I did a query letter event on Saturday, actually. We had 20 people over. They all brought their query letters. I'm responding right now. So the first thing I say is that there's no such thing as the perfect pitch, as they call it sometimes, a query letter, which you send to either a publisher or an agent. In Canada, I know it's just as difficult to find an agent as it is to find a publisher. In fact, sometimes it's even more difficult. And most of our publishing houses, most of our mid-level publishing houses in Canada will accept query letters directly from authors. In the United States, it's exactly the other way around. Unless you have an agent, your chances are not very good of even getting a query letter through. So, query letter is fairly simple when you think about it. It's logical. You have to include the right information at the top, like the name of the agency or the publishing house that you're sending the material to, the name of the person that you're sending it to. I know that some writers put "to whom it may concern." Now, unless the the person's name is, to whom it may concern, that letter is already going to go into the either garbage or the trash on your email. Not anymore. This is the virtual shredder these days, right? So yeah, make sure that it's personalized. The first thing that you want to get is to get the attention of the person right away. And one of the ways to do that is what's called a tagline. And a tagline is similar to a newspaper headline. So right underneath "Dear so-and-so," "Dear to whom it may concern," there's a tagline that captures what your book is about. It's either novel, short nonfiction, memoir, whatever. There's like a newspaper headline. Put that. Then, first paragraph should be what's called the pitch line, which is basically you're telling the person what your book is about in a way that will get the person really interested in wanting to know more about your book. That's usually just a couple of 3 or 4 sentences. The main plot line, for example, the theme of what your book is about, that sort of thing, in a sales kind of way, not like you're selling a used car, because in the end, what sells is your story itself. I mean, that's what you have to, get the person into. So, and then you can do the next paragraph would be a description of the characters and their involvement in the plot, in the storyline, the conflicts, because that's an important part of it. I mean, I haven't seen too many novels, for example, that don't have a conflict in them. I mean, if you look at someone if you look at a novel like James Joyce's Ulysses, for example, you might think right at the beginning, oh my God, there is no conflict in here, but there are a lot of conflicts going on. So conflict, is very important. Then in the next paragraph, third paragraph, is a bit of a biography of yourself. With some, if you have already published material, that is a good place to put it, especially if it's relevant. So, if it's a novel you're pushing, then if you published novels before, it's a very good idea to say, these are titles that I published. Also, you should try to, first of all, you need to do the research, the particular agent or publishing house, because if you're sending a query letter to an agent that only deals with memoirs, for example, and you're sending a poetry collection query, you've just wasted your time and their time. So doing the research before you even start the query letter is very important as well. So that those are, and it should all be done on one page, one single space page. So that's probably a typical query letter that you send out.
I have a lot of other questions to ask, but before I go on with my questions, I would like to know whether someone has already been intrigued by what has been said so far and would like just to step in and ask a question. Yes.
I had a question which I'm going to reframe in the context of the last things that Michael said. Suppose I have a Dynamite manuscript to send around, and I ponder the name Guernica, and I say, I'm an Italian author. Why should I send it to a publisher that has to do with Spain? So, my question is, where does the word Guernica come from? To me, Guernica is a place in Spain. So,
It's definitely, yeah.
I haven't done my background work, so I confess I should have looked at that. But But surely you have a one-liner to address that. Thank you.
Guernica was, my partner and I took it over 10 years ago. Guernica was started actually in 1978 by Antonio D'Alfonso in Montreal. And the reason for Guernica is that the previous year, I believe it was the previous year, he went on a tour of Europe and he visited Guernica. And a famous painting by Picasso. And he visited the village, and so he thought that that would be a great name for a publishing house that publishes edgy material, that publishes material that sometimes gets people upset, that publishes writers who are on the margins, or were on the margins at the time. Antonio at the beginning published a lot of Italian-Canadian authors, because Italian-Canadian authors at the time were a silent voice. No one was going to publish Italian-Canadian authors. And so Antonio did that. But he picked Guernica as a symbolic name. Not that we publish stuff by Spanish. We have published material by Spanish authors, but it's not. If you go on our website, you'll see right away that it's the name is symbolic.
Yes, I see many hands raised.
I already wrote a book, and I already published it by myself. But I find a little bit difficult in marketing the book. How to let people know that the book exists. Right now, it's in Amazon's, and everyone who has read it has given me 5 stars. Really happy. But how to let people know, here is the book? That's my problem. I don't know if you have experience and you can advise me something about it.
Let's Michael start.
What is your name?
My name of the book.
Sorry?
The name of the book.
No, your name.
Ramon.
Ramon. You asked the question that everybody is asking. If I had figured that out, I would be very happy to give you the answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the protocol answer, which is basically what we people that are in the business tells to people that ask that question, okay? There are several ways you can market your books. All of them cost a lot of money. If you want that book to be seen today, 2019, almost 2020, you have to be able to have a budget. And you have to be able to not to use that budget and go into debt. You have to allocate an amount of resources to promote that book. But how do you promote it? Let's say you have $100, and then let's say you have $1,000, and I'm going to give you these 2 cases, okay? If I had $100 to promote my book, what I will do is, I will use that $100 to get more pen and more paper to write another book. I will write 2 books in the same series, then a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th. And then, I promise you, the people that give you 5 stars in the first one, they want to know what happened in the second. And then they go to the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th, and that's how you make money with books. The easy way. And it's not easy because writing one book is very difficult. Writing a series of books, at the end of that you want to kill somebody. And I did a 4-book series. I see the effect of having 1 book or having 4 books. But after that, I had problem writing because I pushed myself too much. So I stopped doing that. But if you want the answer with the $100 and with the $1,000, If you had $1,000 to spend, what I would do is this. You write a book, one. Then you write a short novella that speaks about that book, maybe a secondary character of that book. And then you give it for free. That novella or that short story is for free. There are so many ways to give a book for free, and people will buy it, will have it. But you also have to be aware, one book only, you can have $100, $1,000, $1 million. One book is not enough today. And I understand that it's difficult, and that's why nowadays there are so many books on how to write a series of books successfully. I read one of these books wrote by a very successful series author called Crystal Hunt. She's Canadian, she lives here. I spoke with her, and she told me the things that I'm telling you. She's a machine, okay? She wrote 25 books. And she now is making good money out of it. But she's resilient. She failed a lot of time, but she persisted. And she wrote one book after the other. And then she studied how to promote that. And she's keeping studying it. So the short answer to your question is, you have to understand what's your long-term plan. I'll tell you mine. My long-term plan is to try and publish for the next 5 to 6 years, 2 books in English per year. That's my long-term plan. And I'm trying to do this, hopefully creating a series, to see if I can harness some of the benefits of a strategy that is working now. Tomorrow, everything can change. And so a series doesn't work anymore. So, if somebody gives you a straight answer and says, this is the only answer that matters, please don't believe him or her, because they're lying to you.
If you had $1,000?
If you had $1,000, I will possibly buy them more paper, more books, to write maybe 10 or 11 books, and then maybe promoting them with that free novellas.
Do you want to add something?
Just this, if you don't have any, one of the things is, if you have a money to get a publicist. There are freelance publicists out there that will take on authors, but they're not cheap. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to have some money. The other thing is what we do now. I mean, we have a publicist who works very hard for our, but we also have very, very strong social media things. That is, I think a lot of books are sold these days via social media or via Goodreads, for example. And those are places that you can get your books on without having to pay anything. But you have to know how to use the social media. You have to know how to use Twitter. You have to know how to use Facebook. You have to build friends. You have to build all kinds of things to be able to do that. So what we have an intern who actually does all that for us, for our writers. That person, that's what they do. Just put stuff on social media. Whether we're having launches, whether new books are coming out, that sort of that. Whatever we're doing, we announce everything on social media. We've discovered that even for traditional publishers, it's almost becoming a waste of time for us to send books out to reviewers, to traditional reviewers. The market, they're getting smaller and smaller all the time, tighter and tighter. There are fewer and fewer of them. So we send out maybe 30 copies of every book to all these reviewers. We're lucky if we get 2 reviews from those, and the rest are just, who knows, remainder tossed away. So, and we're pushing bloggers. Right? I think getting bloggers reputable bloggers, literary bloggers, to talk about your work, talk about your books, is a really good way to promote your book. Get it out.
Thank you. I have a few questions. The idea of writing and the idea of publishing. There are people that just write to write, and then there are people that write to publish. Somehow this past year I was trying to figure out how you move from one stage to the next. And do you have a comment on that, first off?
I think I met you before at the library. Maybe you made a reading,
No, I didn't read.
but I forgot your name. I'm so sorry.
Eloise.
Eloise.
Yeah.
Okay, Eloise.
You were the person from Rome.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. By the way, she writes amazing poetry, just so you guys know. At least I liked it a lot. So your question was how, if you want to go from just writing because you want to write to writing because you want to publish and be seen? Is that what you wanted to ask?
Mm-hmm. What makes the difference in a person?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. Okay, my father wanted to self-publish a book. Okay, this book was an account of his life, so a memoir, to give to his nephew when he grows up. Okay, so he asked me, how do I do this? Okay, so I gave him some suggestions, keeping in mind that he didn't want to make money out of this book. He just wanted people to find it. Okay, so I told him, you write your book. I'm going to take care of the cover. I'm going to take care of how you, well, not the editing, but how you format it in paperback and in ebook format. And then we're going to put it on Amazon. Okay? If you want just your book to be seen as much as possible, we can try to do that. So, if I'm not mistaken, he published a book a couple of years ago on Amazon, and he put it on free, because you can put your book on free. And to this moment, if I'm not mistaken again, the book got downloaded around 3,000 times. He didn't want to sell it. He just wanted the book to be out there. This is a kind of author that I call, he's an author, but he just wanted his story to get out there. So that's the first kind of author that we're talking about. The second kind of author will be more like Christoph that I was talking about, me. So what I want to do with my book is, my why is to make a difference with my stories, but also I want to be able to pay my bills with that. I'm nowhere near there. I need to acknowledge that. But I'm equipped in knowing what is my deficiency. What do I need? And how do I know it? It's because I ask to self-publishers that are more successful than me on how to self-publish a book successfully. I'm getting feedback. So the difference with the first kind of author is that the second one constantly needs to learn something new. And he needs or she needs to learn it from somebody that is at the point where she or he wants to be. So that's the difference. One is driven by just writing the story and get it out there. The other one has a plan and wants to do something with that book. He or she wants to build a business. That is why the second kind of author is called authorpreneur. They forge this new word. I consider myself to be an authorpreneur. You see, the question that you ask yourself is,
let's let Michael see, because he is both a writer and a publisher, so let's see the writer in you. What says the writer in you?
Well, I think there's a third type of writer that Kelly didn't mention, and that's the one that's driven to write. and to know that writing is part of that writer's identity. That's what that writer is. That without the writing, you look back and it's like an empty mirror. There's nothing there. So, if you're writing, a lot of writers start by writing the stuff that they're afraid even to show other people. They put it in the bottom drawer and hide it away. But eventually, a writer who's driven, who's committed, will say, I want other people to see my work. I want other people to appreciate what I've done, what I'm writing now. Whether that's going to happen or not is a different matter. The world is much more open now, as Michele says. There's self-publishing is a very appropriate way of doing that. In fact, now I'm a member of the Writers' Union of Canada, and I'm on the membership committee of the Writers' Union of Canada, and we've opened it up to self-published authors. They go through a slightly different thing, but we are getting a lot of self-published authors. That has to be professional. There's a definition. Has to be, the covers have to be. They can't be, the old. I used to be able to recognize self-published books by their covers. It wasn't very pretty in most cases. It was kind of very elemental. The typeset and all that was kind of weird. But no, if you write poetry in particular, a lot of times you're not going to make a business out of it. You're not going to make a living out of it. Not even the poet laureate of Canada, George Eliot Clark, whom we publish his 500-page poetry books, makes a living as a poet. He's a professor at the University of Toronto, and that's So poetry is a special case. It's something that you have to love. I mean, I published two collections of poetry. I think I made like $150 off of that. So it's not like you're going to make money out of it, but you have to feel that you have something to contribute to the world, to the writing world, and that makes a big difference. And if you think that way, then sometimes recognition comes, but you still have to keep your day job. A lot of poets do self-publish these days for the simple reason that, as I said, poetry doesn't sell very well. So traditional publishers are pulling back on poetry. There are very few publishing houses now that publish poetry in Canada, and so all poets are looking for other ways to publish it. The problem with poetry on Amazon as an ebook, I wouldn't advise it because we've tried. We've stopped doing poetry books because of the formatting. It screws it up no matter what. The formatting of poetry doesn't come out. And also, people who read poetry, we've learned, want the tactile feel. They want to feel the book in their hand as opposed to an ebook. So, but I mean, you can still go on Amazon, put it on Amazon, and have people download, order the book.
I see that the pizzas have arrived a bit earlier than expected. So if we have just one more question, and then we can still reconvene at the pizza table and continue the conversation there. You can ask all the questions you want. So there was a question here.
Per Michele, una domanda tecnica. You said you have given your work to Amazon to download. I'm sorry, your father put it on Amazon to download for free. But why would Amazon? I'm kind of down here. Why would Amazon give away something for free? I thought Amazon was there to make money, right? So I've lost the passage there. You could elaborate.
What was it?
I completely forgot your name, so I apologize. If I came with an answer to that question, I would be lying to you because nobody really knows what Amazon wants. That's why there is something called Amazon, something like algorithm, that every single self-publish / hybrid / published author is trying to figure out. It's not going to happen. We know that Amazon allows us, very kindly, for now, because tomorrow the things can change, to put our book and give it for free. One of the reasons might be, and again, I'm just speculating here, I'm not an expert in how Amazon works, but if you really want an answer, I might say one of the answer might be, if your first book is the first in a series, and you have 10 books in that series, and that series is good, people want it, you bet Amazon wants your first book to be for free, because people are going to buy 2, 3, 4, and Amazon gets the money. Sometimes it gets 70%, sometimes it gets less than that, but it gets the money. That might be a reason why. Also, that book for free drives traffic to Amazon. And one person that is on that page and see your book, maybe they are distracted 1 second by that special book, dark fantasy over there. Maybe you click over there. Maybe you want to see what's going on over there. That's another reason why Amazon maybe wants your book for free. Again, just speculating.
It's bait. It's bait.
Do you want to ask the last question here?
Thank you. So after a piece is published, can you ever do anything with it and republish it?
And then also,
It's self-publishing, we call it rebranding, and it means I take one of my books, take it down. What I will do I change inside a bit so that you can see it's a different book, so it needs a new ISBN, new cover, new description, and I actually know a person that is doing that. He's a person that I know, a fantasy author. He published an urban fantasy series. Okay, he was making a decent amount out of it. He took it down because he said, "I wasn't ready for it. I published one book, the second book, and the third book without a plan, and he still was making money. But he decided, I'm going to rebrand this series. So now I'm publishing everything, and he's publishing, and he's writing 5 books at the same time. 5 books. They're going to be different, bigger, with a different cover, and different enough that Amazon will recognize them as different books. He lost all the stars, all the evaluation, but that's what we call rebranding. You definitely can do it.
But you're talking about, let's say, a book of poetry.
I was actually speaking of an article that is going to be published, and so I'm wondering if it ever can be change it up and published somewhere else.
Oh, well,
an article, not a book, an article.
that depends. That depends on what kind of an agreement you sign with the first magazine, the journal, or whatever. Most often they take first rights, and then you're allowed to publish elsewhere. Although you have to acknowledge where it was originally published. And that's the case in most cases. That's the way it works. It's a little different with books, however, because with books you sign when you sign an agreement. You sign with us. It's for it can be for 5 years, and it just renews if neither party stops it. But if you have a poetry book and you say, and the poetry book is selling well. And then you say, well, you know, I don't like 3 or 4 of the poems that are in that poetry book. I would like to take those out and put something else in. Yeah, that's done. It either becomes a second edition. A second edition is more like what Ed was talking about. You rebrand it, or a reprint, which the reprint will keep the same ISBN. You just put second printing on the copyright page, that sort of thing, and that's it. You come up with an agreement with the most publishers are more than willing to do that because it helps them as well. We do it because no book is perfect, right? Especially these days. The editing kind of slides away in many cases, and so you get typos, you get all kinds of things in there, so an author will come back and say, "My friends saw this in the book, can we fix it?" And yeah, sure. Once the first printing is sold out, second print, send that to the distributor.
So thank you, Michele, Michael, and Michael. Thank you for being here. Just a small token of appreciation for being here with us. And please, so let's join us for some pizza, some refreshments, and some more talk and some more questions around the table. Bye-bye, thank you. And we also